One of my favorite skills that I've taught myself with no gymnastics experience is the handstand press. I love it because you can work on your handstand press wherever you are. So whether you want to train at the beach, at the gym, at home, you can always work on your handstand press. Plus, if you make your handstand press a goal, you're going to be working on so many aspects. You're going to work on your mobility, your shoulder strength, your overall proprioception, which is knowing where your body's in space. So by having this one goal, you're going to achieve so much else. Now, the handstand press is a skill that takes a lot of effort, consistency, and practice to achieve, but I promise you, the moment your feet just effortlessly lift off the ground, you're gonna feel so proud of yourself and so accomplished. At least that's how I felt. That's how I still feel. Welcome, I'm Summer Fun Fitness. I've been teaching myself hand balancing and calisthenics and flexibility as an adult. So I know lots of the struggles that can come along with learning, and that's why I'm on a mission to help you guys learn how to be fit and mobile using calisthenics, but in less time than it took me, because you can learn from all of my trial and error. I asked you guys on Instagram what you wanted to see next, and so many of you asked for handstand press workout. Another thing you guys asked for is to see more of that guy. So we're gonna do both today. You're gonna see what these exercises look like on a beginner, somebody who's never worked towards a handstand press. Before we get into this video, please know that it does require a lot of wrist mobility. You're gonna be forcing them to less than 90 degrees, so you might have some soreness over time. Make sure you take care of your wrists. You're always doing proper warm-ups, you're doing proper cool downs, and you're also doing strengthening drills. In this workout routine, if you ever get tired, if your wrists get tired, take a rest and then move to doing it on dumbbells or little push-up bars. Okay, let's get into it. To start a workout, you always want to elevate your body temperature. I started with push-ups. That's probably not appropriate for a beginner because your wrists aren't warm yet. So for you, maybe just skip rope, even if it's imaginary skip rope, just something for 5 minutes to get you nice and warm and prepared for the workout. And then I moved on to these kind of downward dog jumps just to start loading my wrist and pushing through my shoulders, really just mostly focusing on elevating through the shoulders, keeping the arms nice and straight, they're not bending. Then onto wrist mobility and wrist warm up. I usually do this for at least 3 minutes, I would say. Onto some scapular push-ups, making sure that you're using handstand fingers, you're gripping the ground, your elbows are locked, trying to keep your head neutral. If this is too intense, do it on your knees. And then because I have slight imbalances from one side to the other, I worked on single arm SCAP push-ups. And then a handstand press requires our hamstrings to be nice and warm. We want to prepare it for that nice straddle. So I do some of these dynamic kicks to warm up, really slowly going into it. By the end of it, I'm actually quite aggressive. As a beginner, you may find that your knees need to be a little bit bent. And then here I'm just trying to cue him to bring his feet closer to me instead of farther away from his body. Then we're gonna mimic the handstand press on our backs as best as we can. So we're gonna hold a yoga block. From there, we're working on some hip rotation, making sure to keep our lower back connected with the ground. You want to have a strong hollow body here. If you need a tutorial on how to hollow body, watch my 7-minute ab routine. If doing both legs at the same time is too intense, do single leg. In case it wasn't obvious, I am holding that yoga block off of the ground as well. Here we get Ryan into position, making sure that his low back is connected with the ground, it's not arching. And then getting him to remember to lift the block up, squeeze the block and elevate his shoulders, so get that turtley position in there. And then you'll see he's not able to go as low because he's just working on this skill for the very first time. And then going into some shoulder elevation drills here. So you might actually need to hold a larger foam roller or even 3 yoga blocks. You want to squeeze across, keep your rib cage down, and then push your shoulders up and down. The most important part is when you come up, you want to keep your back flat and ribs down so that it mimics a handstand. You don't want to be arching. Ryan has a quite mobile back and shoulders. So here I'm trying to remind him to keep his rib cage down. I'm just acting as a wall here because he wanted to lean back a little bit. And then onto our pancake drill. I just put a yoga block here because I want you guys to know that you should be leading with your belly button. Oftentimes people want to round through their chest just to get closer to the ground, but the goal of the pancake is to create mobility in your lower spine and in your pelvis. So you want to do this little twerk, and it's going to be impossible when you're learning. It was sure impossible for me when I started working on the pancake. And you'll see here, I'm trying to get Ryan to move his hips, but like I said, it's kind of impossible to get that actual little pelvis tilt at the start when you're just learning. And then onto some handstand kick-ups. Before we go into our handstand holds, I usually do 10 per side. Beginners, when you're doing your kick-ups, just don't kick quite as high and keep your legs split to prevent yourself from falling over. And then onto some handstand holds, so I make sure I'm ready and prepared for the top portion of the handstand press when we actually get there. For Ryan, I provided a light spot. If you are by yourself, you can always do these against the wall, but make sure to watch my short video on how to use the wall properly as a beginner. Then onto our first drill. What you're gonna do is shift forward through your shoulders, trying to gently get your hips over your shoulders. So I want you to push nice and tall through the shoulders. I don't want you to lean forward like this. As a beginner, you might find that your hips aren't anywhere over your shoulder, and that is fine as long as that's the shape that you're working towards. This doesn't have to be a giant movement here. Just remember to push through the shoulders, kind of getting your head more into your body like you're a little turtle, gripping through your fingers, finding your breath, and just feeling it through your traps and your upper back. And yes, it is exhausting. Next, we're gonna work on the lower portion of our handstand press. You're gonna elevate your feet to whatever height you need. You're gonna shift all the weight into your upper body. You want to be as light on your feet as possible. Slight lean forward where your shoulders are now over your wrist, getting your hips over your shoulders. It's not a hop, so if you feel like you're hopping, maybe just take a step back and rewatch this video. I want you to grip the ground, push through the shoulders, lean forward as I'm showing him here. You might just be crashing down at the start, and that is okay. We're gonna slowly build up to that control by consistently practicing. Now that we've worked the middle portion of our handstand press, the lower portion, it's time to work the top portion. Of course, you can do this against a wall instead of off of a box if that works better for you. Same setup as before, but what we're trying to do here is lean forward with the shoulders and just have our feet lightly lift off the box. Now, if you're just starting this, you only need to lift a few inches off the box. You don't have to go all the way to handstand just yet. If this is your very first time working on this, you don't have to lift at all. You can do the same little shift forwards that we were doing earlier. Just make sure that you're initiating the shift through your upper body, not through your feet, not through your toes. Putting it all together with some handstand press negatives. So you will need to be able to kick up to a handstand in order to do the negative. We just want you controlling the lowering portion. When I was learning how to handstand, I actually learned how to press very shortly after being able to hold a handstand. Now, it took me 13 months of practicing a handstand 5 days a week in order to hold it for 10 seconds. So it's quite a long journey for myself. But what I did is I always controlled the negative whenever possible. And I think that's why I achieved the handstand press so shortly after achieving just a 10-second handstand. You can always do it split leg. This is probably the most accessible version, and this is the version that I'm going to be teaching Ryan. Again, if you don't have a spotter, you can definitely do this against a wall. So you open your legs, split them, then hold them in position, lean forward with your shoulders to bring them gently to the ground. Make sure that you work both sides of your body. Of course, if you already have a really strong handstand press and you're just trying to improve it, you can always do pike negatives, going to L-sit or to V-sit. I really like those. Then we're gonna work on some planche forward shifts. So I want you to make sure that you keep your guts pulled in and up, push the shoulders as you can see here. I don't want you doing it like this with your neck extended because we're working on a handstand press where we wanna keep our head closer into our body. Here, I'm trying to get Ryan to lower his hips, keep a plank, and then move through his shoulders. So it does take a little bit to figure out this movement pattern. And of course, you can do it on your knees as well. And then for the end of the session, I stretched out my wrist and then worked a lot on my lower body mobility. And I'm just gonna leave a little montage up for you. today's exercises have provided some clarity for you on handstand press training. If you don't feel like following a full workout sheet or clicking through this video, you can do my follow along beginner handstand workout routine, or if you want this video in shorter format, watch my short right here. And thank you so much for being here and supporting the channel. I definitely wish that I had 2 microphones so that we could have both been mic'd up and you could have heard the real life in person commentary that was going on. So if you want to see that in future, comment below and hit subscribe to help support the channel so it can grow more and I can get more equipment to produce better videos for you. Thank you so much for being here for me and little Boba. We couldn't go one video without having him in it. So have a good day. Good boy. That's a good boy.